All right, sorry about that. Little technical difficulties. Hopefully you guys can see my screen now. All right. So like I said, if you have any, let me go back. If you have any audio issues, please just make sure you select the correct preference on the right-hand side. If you select your phone, you need to dial in and use the access code that's been provided. Just a reminder, this webinar is being recorded, so you will have the option to rewatch or revisit areas that you need to follow up on. We'll also be answering questions throughout the presentation, so be sure to submit any questions through the Q&A box. And as always, you can send any questions to sales@untangle.com. All right, so just a quick look at the agenda and what we're going to cover. First off, we're going to talk about the challenges of mobile devices, and then dive into what exactly mobile policy enforcement is and explain the differences between mobile device management and mobile policy enforcement. Then we will discuss how Untangle solutions can help, specifically our IPsec VPN application that enforces full tunnel VPN on remote devices. And then I'll pass it over to John, who will give a demonstration of how Untangle works and how simple it is to set up and implement on our NG firewall solution in mobile devices. All right, so let's get started. I'm sure many of you are aware mobile devices present many challenges. Whether you are provisioning company devices, allowing employees or students to bring devices on campus, or participating in a one-to-one program, the challenges are still present. Some of the pros and cons of mobile are that, employees and students can work anywhere, but the private data on those devices are available anywhere, which brings on additional risk to not only the device, but to your network. Also, with devices being able to connect to any network anywhere, like public or free Wi-Fi, this may be great for the user, but the networks may be lacking network security. So this also brings additional risks to the organization's network. And lastly, if you have a one-to-one program or are issuing company devices, you still have to worry about those students or employees accessing content that violates either your acceptable use policy or your SIPA compliance. And this is just another risk that can be brought to your organization when the device leaves your network. So what are the differences between mobile device management and what we're calling mobile policy enforcement? Let me explain this a bit so hopefully it makes more sense to you. With mobile device management, this is usually a large program that is utilized at big corporations and enterprises. And they want to centrally control the devices, including application installs, system installs, data recovery in the event that the device is lost. If you're looking for this type of program, you need to think about the control versus cost. This is a very costly program, and here at Untangle we focus on businesses that are below the enterprise level and schools that do not have large budgets. Generally, for small organizations and schools, this cost just does not justify the need for that level of control, which is why usually mobile device management is seen at large enterprises. The process is also very complex, and for small businesses and schools, it's just not something that is trivial for them to function. So what we're talking about today is not true mobile device management. It's our term mobile policy enforcement, which is a little different. The main idea is that with mobile policy enforcement, you can enforce network policies anywhere the device goes, whether it is a company or school issued device or a personal device. Pretty much no matter where the device is, what network it's on, what it's connected to, the same policies that you enforce on your Untangle solution can be enforced on those devices. And this is a great solution for schools who issue one-to-one programs to ensure that their students aren't accessing inappropriate content when they take the device home. This is also very useful for companies that are issuing provision devices to make sure the employees are adhering to their acceptable use policy of the organization. All right, do we have any questions, or are we good? Okay, so right now I will pass it over to Katie, who will go into a little bit more detail about how our Untangle NG firewall can help.
Awesome. Thanks, Shannon. Great job. So as many of you on the session could be running Untangle currently, or you might be new to the solution and you're just not aware of kind of the deployment options that you have for NG Firewall. Before I pass it over to John, let's kind of go over those so that this can be helpful to the new people as well as refresh those who are currently using Untangle and could potentially benefit from it running a different way on their network. So how do you get Untangle? How do you deploy it? Where do I put it? And will it work in my existing network? On the left-hand side of the screen, it depicts what we call transparent bridge. And this is simply putting Untangle between your firewall and your main switch. This works for some, not for others, but if you find success with it, go ahead and utilize Untangle this way. On the right-hand side of the screen, you see what we call the router mode. And that's where you deploy Untangle inline so that all traffic is flowing through this device, through the Untangle device. Keep in mind that Untangle is not a proxy, it's an inline filter, so you'll want to make sure that all of your traffic is flowing through the Untangle in order for it to be filtered. And that's also going to help you with the IPsec VPN or the mobile policy enforcement in requiring that policies be followed and policies be followed no matter where the device is. And John will get into how to set that up shortly. So as we move on, let's kind of go over the IPsec VPN and what we call XOF. That's the application that we've included in our offering so that you allow mobile policy enforcement to work for your environment. So these days, mobile devices are inherently promiscuous, as you know, connecting via cellular and Wi-Fi networks that may not have sufficient security protocols in place. We all know this. Everyone on this session works hard to keep threats off of those devices as well as off their local network. And we want to be sure that no matter where those devices go and come back to your network, that still is true. And with IPsec VPN, it's a service that's provided a secure internet protocol communications by authenticating and encrypting each IP packet of communication sessions. So maybe a little bit easier once we see the demo, but we use IPsec VPN as well as a third-party application called XOF, which is a built-in protocol which is supported by Android and Apple devices. It's very similar to L2TP. It can be enforced or used to enforce filtering, protection, and monitoring of remote devices. However, it doesn't have the complications and problems that were present with L2TP. We noticed that with our previous release, and that's where we kind of found and felt that we needed to move forward and find something that works a little bit better. So XOF is our go-to here. And before I pass it over, I'll let John explain kind of how that happens and what you need to do to filter devices. So go ahead and we'll pass it over to John so he can go into the demo.
Thanks, Katie. So I'm going to show you basically the nuts and bolts of how to get this set up on your system. If you already have an Untangle, that's great. It's pretty easy to do, and we just have to add a few things. And it'll work with your existing policies. The first thing we have to install is our IPsec VPN module, which you can see here. The settings are pretty simple. We'll just go into settings. And there's a couple of options that are mandatory. We have to turn bypass all IPsec traffic off. This means that you want to filter the IPsec traffic through your Untangle, which is kind of critical for this. The other part is configuring your VPN, your mobile VPN. You need to enable it. You need to put a global password on the IPsec. This is the centralized password for all the devices. And then also we have to configure a password and login for each individual device. We give you two options on this. You can actually use the Untangle to maintain that list of directories, and we'll go into that in a second. The other one is with Radius authentication. Radius is a form of authentication. It's a separate server that you enter all your accounts, and you can use it for multiple things, and we can tap into that. And you just need to configure your Radius server to connect to it, connect to the Untangle, and it will be doing it, connecting to it. Sorry, I lost my screen here. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do the more simpler where you use the Untangle to keep track of all your device logins and passwords, and we'll just configure one. And here I have a test login, and you can enter first and last. It's mostly for your information and email address, and also enter a password. Once you have that set up, and you can put in, hundreds or thousands of users for their individual devices. And you're going to use that to track the people on what they're doing on your network, if they're violating any of your network policies and so forth. So now I'm all set up. I just need to enable my mobile device, and right now I'll add the settings. And let me show you what the settings look like on my mobile device. This is what it looks like on a iOS, any kind of Apple product will have this. This is built in. The way you get to this is under the settings, and then VPN, and then you just need to add the settings for VPN, and you'll get this screen. And this is completely built into the iOS. Here we'll put in the outside IP address of my server, my account that I'm using, so in this case test, which I showed you, which is the local account, the password for test, and then also the global password, which is the secret. So I put that in there and save that. For Chromebooks, it's very similar. You're going to go into settings and then internet connections, and then add a private connection, and this will give you this screen. Again, we're going to enter in this can be a domain name if you have your Untangle set with a domain, or this could actually be the direct IP address of the WAN interface, which is your external interface IP address. I just gave it the same name as the IP address. Again, it's L2TP, and then we put in, this is the global password, and then we'll put in the individual login, which is test, and then the password for test. And I went ahead and saved that. And if you connect, you would connect to your server. The next part is I'm going to go onto my Untangle and show you live how it connects. So I'll look at my status page, and I'm just going to use my iPhone here, and we'll connect to it. So if we refresh this, we'll see how I'm now connected and who is connected. It's the user test. And I can see what's going on with that user. There's other areas that you can see this in too. If you look in your session, you can see the user test is connected and what websites I'm going to. And let's say I decide I'm going to use the corporate email to go to playboy.com, which is against the violations. If I do that, I'll get a block page, and this is what the block page will look like for the user on their mobile phone. And they'll understand that it's been blocked and why and so forth. But on my Untangle as administrator, I can also see in the event log that I've had a blocked session. So let me change this to just show block events, so it's a little simpler to read. And again, so I can see that the user test has been trying to go to playboy.com and they were blocked. So then you can go to employees, say, this is the policy of this institution, and those aren't allowed. I can also see this in my reports. I'll just generate today's report real quick. Normally you would have a daily report at the end of the day, so you don't have to actually generate it. So if we look at the report, we'll look at web filter, and we can see that this person was blocked and the reasons they were blocked. If we go down here, see top violations with playboy.com. I can dig deeper in to see who did those violations. Again, it's the user test and what time this occurred, which you can see was just a few minutes ago. It's kind of useful, kind of helpful. Um, One of the things about OpenVPN, even though it's built into all your mobile devices, including Chromebooks, iOS, Android phones, um, if they are, institution or company issued, you need to lock down those VPN settings so the user can't turn those off or change them when they're outside the network. So one of the ways you can do that on Apple products is join Apple's deployment. They in turn can make certain settings on the devices locked down, and that user will not be able to disconnect the VPN, even if he's going through a cellular network like 4G, or he's using a free wireless somewhere else, like Starbucks, for example. Android and Google also have the same thing for Chrome and Android products. It's called device management. You log into your domain admin account for Google, and then you can add devices in Chrome device and actually lock those VPN settings so they can't be changed. That's the main parts of that, and that's about it for me. So I'm going to pass it back to Katie here.
Great, thank you, John. Thanks, John. I appreciate that. It looks like I think Shannon needs to take back over for the presentation, but I did have a couple questions come in, and I just wanted to make sure that I covered those. Some people are asking, how do we get this? What do we need to do in terms of getting our licensing to accept the IPsec VPN? Let me just reiterate, a majority of you have this option already within the Untangle. Clearly, there's a lot that Untangle can do that you might not be aware of, and on the latest version, 11, which is why we are requesting that majority of our customers upgrade to 11, you get these additional features at no additional cost. If you're on the complete package, IPsec VPN is part of that package, and we want you guys to utilize your package to its full extent. And there's no additional cost for it, so we want to make sure that you're benefiting. So feel free to contact sales@untangle.com or support@untangle.com if you need assistance with this. Understand that John was doing a live demo, so some of those were screenshots from his devices, but hopefully you'll get the gist that this is how it works, this is how you would set it up, and this is how it's going to affect those clients using IPsec VPN with a provisioned device from your network. As you can see, it helps both schools and businesses, regardless of how you need to justify, and we hope that you see the benefit of IPsec VPN using our new XOF feature. If you have any questions, again, feel free to contact sales@untangle.com. If you have technical questions, we can assist you there, or feel free to email support@untangle.com so that we can get your questions answered in a timely fashion. So thank you for joining today. Hopefully you got.
Okay, hold on, Katie. We do have some questions.
Oh,
So
okay.
before we sign off, let's get these asked. So does this work with iPads, John? That might be a question for you.
Yes, it does. It works exactly the same across the Apple products. You'll go the same place, settings, and then VPN, and then you can add it. The VPN settings, and that's built into the iPad as well as the iPhone and any Macs that you may have.
All right, another question we have is, what if the mobile device is connected under some sort of captive portal, like at an airport, for example?
It's actually going to be kind of interesting because some captive portals only work when people are going out port 80, which is web pages. The VPN should actually go through the captive portal, or worst case is that you'll have to accept the terms of the captive portal page, and then the VPN will connect.
Okay, just one second.
I did notice one question about Windows phones, and that does work with Windows phones also. They have XOF built into them.
Okay, we have a question about if you can connect multiple devices, configure multiple devices at once. and I believe we don't really provide that.
You can, there's a couple things. You'll actually have to create the accounts on the Untangle individually or import them as a import file, but on both Apple and the Google device management, you're allowed to actually make those settings global and make changes across the board. So the real answer is you have to have the devices pre-added to your either Apple device management or the Google device management.
Okay, great. Another question is, does this work with Windows phones?
Yes, yes. Windows phones has XOF built in, so it's simple. Unfortunately, I don't have one with me, so I could provide a screenshot.
All right, just looking to see if there's some more. What kind of processor load will this add to the server when adding multiple users in terms of encryption and decryption of VPN?
That's it's a hard question to answer just because it's kind of varied. So it depends on the amount of traffic the phones are providing. Obviously, as the traffic is coming across, I've set up about 100 of these to connect at one time on fairly low end. I think it was an i3 Intel chip with 4 gigs of memory, and the load was not even significant to even show up. So I don't think I think the decryption is very efficient. So I don't think you'll have any real issues, but it's definitely something you have to kind of try out. Generally, you roll this out a little bit at a time, so you'll be able to see whether the load is causing an issue. I've kind of doubted. Most of the time, most of your load has to do with either virus checking or, if you get a lot of block pages for people going to a lot of sites that are not allowed by your policy.
Great. Another question on type of device. Can this work on Kindle Fire HD and Nexus? Well, Nexus is an Android device, though.
I do not know on that. I'd have to get one of those and try that out. It's a pretty common standard XOF to have it, so I would be I could definitely find out about that and maybe get back to someone.
All right, just looking to see if there's some more questions coming in.
Again, I just wanted to reiterate that the demo that John showed was based on the normal devices like your iPads or your Android phones, Chromebooks. A lot of our school or education markets are going to Chrome one-to-one programs. So that was the focus of our demo today. However, that does not mean that it can't work on Kindle Fire and other devices. That's just what we focused on today and what we have accessibility to in short notice. So feel free to give us a call at support so that we can look into it further with you. If you have specific issues with your own environment and setting up your IPsec VPNs, we can help you with that as well. So if it's more geared towards specific issues.
Thanks, Katie. We had a number of different questions come in on device platforms like Windows laptops and addition to the Kindle Fire. If you are interested in finding out about a specific device, you can look into what the VPN configuration is for that platform. Otherwise, if you're stymied by finding that information yourself, you can feel free to contact us at support.untangle.com for help specifically on that. We also had some questions about how VPN affects mobile device battery life. Again, that's something that really is dependent device by device, and you need to look at the specific device manufacturer. That's not something that Untangle can guarantee for you. So that's something to take into consideration. It also depends on how long people are going to be connected via those mobile devices to VPN back into your network. Another question was whether or not this requires having Untangle on site. It does. The point of this is that you are going out via your mobile device back to your Untangle gateway. deployed at your main office or campus, and so you'll get the benefit of all the filtration rules that are in place on your Untangle device, except they'll be enforced on the mobile devices. So essentially what happens is the mobile device, for all intents and purposes, it sees itself on the land, so those same rules are in play regardless of where the device travels. We're going to take a couple seconds here to look for a few more questions.
Just on the Windows, this does work on Windows. In fact, I use that myself. And then you can lock that down with your GPO policies if they're connected to a domain.
Okay, good. We had somebody ask that 5 times, so I think they really wanted that question answered. Somebody was asking where you can get this webinar. Afterwards, we'll have it posted to the website. All of our webinars are available on YouTube, and we'll also send you an email with a link to the recording. A couple more questions coming in here. Okay, somebody asked, is it possible that with a device that is sometimes inside the network and sometimes outside, can the device automatically not use VPN when inside? So what you're talking about in that scenario, I'm assuming, is that you're using the device on campus or at your place of business and then taking it outside of your network. And yes, if you are on campus, you do not need to connect via VPN. You can go through your usual way to connect to the internet, whether that's via Wi-Fi. For a mobile device, it would have to be Wi-Fi. Or for a laptop, you could connect to the LAN with Ethernet or whatever. And then you could VPN in if you took the mobile device off network. John, I don't know if they're trying to say, is there some way to automatically detect and switch over? I don't know if
that depends on your mobile device. Some devices are smart enough to see that they're on the same network that they're trying to connect. Some devices are not. It doesn't hurt anything that they're connected to the VPN. It's just a little bit more load on their mobile device when they're local. The idea is that they can't switch it off on purpose, so you can enforce your network policies, whether they're on campus or off campus or inside the office or outside the office. So it just depends on the device. Some devices internally will see it's on the same network and will automatically disconnect and then reconnect when it's outside the network. Majority of devices will stay connected to the VPN. There's some good and bad with that. The good part is that you'll have a username connected to the person that's connected, even if they're inside your network.
Thanks, John. We had another question here that I think is pointing to a larger issue that I've seen from a few questions, which is, could this be set up for shared devices and allow users to sign in to gain network access? And I think people are kind of conflating captive portal with VPN access. Do you want to kind of briefly go over what the differences between those two are? It's a little outside the scope of this webinar, but we've had several questions along those lines.
Sure. The VPN is mainly to lock the device to your corporate network or your school network. So it kind of controls the kind of policies that it's going to go through. While captive portal is more of recognizing the user of that device. So it's depending on whether you're trying to identify the device or the user of the device in those two cases. So you actually don't have to use them exclusively. You could actually use VPN and captive portal at the same time. So you could VPN to the location and then have to log in through captive portal.
We also had some general questions on mobile device management. Again, this solution from Untangle, the point of it is to have the same network protections from a security and policy standpoint on your mobile device, whether it's on your network locally at your place of business or school, or whether it's traveling off-site. This solution does not contain anything about geolocating laptops or wiping devices or any sort of lockdown. We are focused on providing network policy rather than a device management solution. Untangle does not specialize in sort of inventory management or provisioning, you'd want to go with a best of breed provider for managing, say, a fleet of laptops or mobile devices. Taking a look and seeing if we have any other more questions here as time allows.
The hardware requirements for version 11 really haven't changed from the previous versions. And I think you can find more on that on our website. We really haven't changed any of the requirements for the hardware.
Somebody asked if the VPN functionality will work behind the firewall. Again, this is something that's meant for when the device is off your LAN. So if the device is on your LAN, it's already being protected by Untangle, and you don't need to do anything else specifically to gain that. Okay, I think we've got most of the questions. The only other thing folks are asking when their recording will be available. We're going to put this out on YouTube later today, and we'll send you. You'll be receiving.
All right, thanks so much everyone for joining us. Again, if you have any questions, please contact us at sales@untangle.com. We do have another webinar next month, so you can check out our website, and you'll also get information about that in the follow-up email tomorrow. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you for joining us.